I'd like to read some housekeeping notes for all of you. Now, this is really important. In fact, all of them are, but this one in particular. To evacuate the building, please use the exit nearest to the staircase next to you, following the exit signage, which of course is basically all the Kuala signs you see. And obey all the instructions given by the fire wardens in the unlikely event that they would suddenly show up at the building. Remember, of course, to avoid using the lift. So do remember there are only two exits here at the moment, the one at the back and, of course, towards my right. Please be, if you do have to leave, do leave in an orderly fashion. This is also very important. We would ask all of you to please kindly switch off your mobile phones, or at least have them on silent or vibrate, so that there's no disruptions whatsoever to the presentations that will be shown later. But of course, as a personal gesture, let's fully engage with our speakers here today, and we would ask all of you to switch off your phones entirely, okay? Now, if you are unwell, we kindly advise you to wear face masks. It's totally up to you. There's no obligation. It's up to your discretion. During the seminar, and as a courtesy to other participants, if you are suddenly feeling that you're not in the best of spirits, please come and see us, and you may have to exit the hall as a sign of courtesy to our other participants here. And at this event, we only offer an open buffet. Of course, that was downstairs at level 1. Okay, clear? So, phone switched off, or at least silent or vibrate. No issues, We're not going to have any disruptions during the presentation later. Where are the exit signs? Let's have a quick test. Where are the exit signs? Some more? Anywhere else? Okay, good. And if the fire warden shows up, what do? Lari. Well, technically that's right, but in an orderly fashion. So good. I'm glad you're paying attention. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Now, we'd like to thank today's sponsors, of course, Sika Malaysia, for their support of the event. And our first speaker for the day that I would like to personally invite is Mr. John Koh. Now, before I formally invite him on stage, as you can see, the guest with the biggest smile ever here at PAM, I would like to give you a little bit of a bio. Mr. John Koh is a product specialist engineer with waterproofing, and is Sika's product specialist engineer who is involved in many designs and development of waterproofing products and materials, as well as to provide technical support on proper application on the waterproofing system. So, without further ado, I'd like to call upon Mr. John Koh to please come on stage.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. All right. First and foremost, thank you to Pam for inviting us over. It's a pleasure to share some of our technologies or some of our knowledge with you guys for the next 1 hour. Okay, so again, my name is John. I'm the product specialist engineer in Sika. So basically, I'm in charge of the overall waterproofing in Sika. Right. Okay, before I begin, let me show you just a quick video first.
For years, Sika has been pushing the construction and automotive industries forward, developing automation, increasing digitalization, and creating products with improved sustainable impact. In the modern world, you can find Sika's cutting-edge solutions almost anywhere. Be it in building projects, critical infrastructure, transportation solutions, or renewable energy sources. Sika is driving change and powering improved performance, longevity, and sustainability. Wherever you look, you can find Sika going beyond the expected.
Okay, so before I proceed, just let me give you a very quick intro to Sika first. So I would like to make this a little bit more interactive. Anyone want to make a wild guess where Sika is originated from? Can just shout out a country? No, it's not Japan. Yes, it's somewhere in Europe. Yes, Switzerland, yes. So Sika is basically a Swiss company, and what we are a specialty chemicals company, and we are responsible for supplying chemical-related materials for 2 different industries. So first is the construction sector, which is where we are all in, and the other one is also motor vehicle industry, basically automotive. Yeah, because some of you may not know that Sika is very much involved in automotive as well. Right, and then in Sika, we do not just have waterproofing. We also have, we do provide solutions for concrete, roofing. Sometimes you also need green building solutions or roofing insulations. So we do complement our insulation solutions with our waterproofing products for your roofing. Then we also have building finishing, which is also where my colleague HAFIZ is from, which later he share more about tile-related materials. And then we also have flooring and coating, anything to do with epoxy flooring, PU flooring, ESD flooring for data centers. And we also have sealing and bonding. This is more towards joint treatments and more dealing more with sealants. Then we also have refurbishment. It's anything to do with concrete repair, spalling, dry cracks, wet cracks, honeycombs for concrete defects, or even structural strengthening, like in the photo here. So this is structural strengthening using carbon fiber solutions. Right. And industry is the automotive industry. Okay, so let me give you a quick intro to wet room. So wet room is a very common area, right? Every building there's definitely a wet room. It's a room that it cannot be avoided. So, however, it's also a room that is often neglected because of sometimes overconfidence. Sometimes it's specified with the cheapest material possible. Then with that, it may come with different sorts of problem, or even the wrong material sometimes. Yeah. So what does wet room do? It's basically a room that is frequently wet, right? There's water-related activities inside, especially toilets. So that's why for wet room, it's always key to make sure that any exposed area in the wet room is properly waterproof in order to prevent any form of seepage that comes whether to your one floor below or to your unit below if it's a superstructure or residential structure, high-rise residential structure. Right. Therefore, it's very crucial to select the proper or the correct type of material that is durable and especially that complements with your tile setting material. Right, because oftentimes, especially for high-rise building or even toilets in general, the waterproofing may not complement together with the tile adhesive. Then, I'm sure many of you may experience that there's a lot of issue like a tile debonding issue or tile hollowness. So we hope that in the next 1 hour session, we may address all these issues, or all these concerns. Right. And so before I forget, I hope that we also have a Q&A session, is it? Yes. Yeah, so I hope that you guys come prepared with some questions for us to be able to answer. Or sometimes we are also learning from you guys also. Yeah, so basically it's a knowledge sharing session. All right, so what types of wet rooms are there? Firstly, there are shower rooms. This is especially for facilities, residential facilities. There are shower rooms. And then bathroom, this is for all residential units. Then there's kitchens as well, because many people often think that wet room is only limited to toilets, but no, kitchen involves some water activity as well, therefore it is considered a wet room. Then there is also a laundry, or some may call it a yard. So these are considered wet room as well. Okay, so why is waterproofing important? Because any water that enters your tile eventually will leak into your concrete structure, whether above or below, right? Therefore, waterproofing is crucial to prevent seepage into a building. So oftentimes when there's an issue, when there's a leak, when there's a defect happening, often you may identify it as leakage or wet spots, right? And then especially if if it's serious enough, then it will cause mold to grow on the floor below, right? Especially if there's a plaster ceiling, then over time, due to water exposure, it will cause algae or mold growth, which may be hazardous to health. Right. And then there are two common types of material being used for wet rooms in general. Firstly is the cementitious waterproofing mortars, or some may call it polymer modified mortars. Right. So these are oftentimes the most economical, workable as well, oftentimes workable because wet rooms are more static, there's less movement involved. So waterproofing mortars are generally the favorable choice of material. Another material, not so common here in Malaysia, but however, there are certain projects that involve this material as well, which is we call it a polymeric liquid membrane, or some may call it liquid applied membrane. Right. So later on, I'll explain some of the differences between these two and also the requirement as well. Right. And then there are other material as well. This like for example, flexible tapes, these are oftentimes complement together with the waterproofing. Because in certain detailing of your wet room or any form of waterproofing, there's a need of what we call angled fillet. Right? Later I explain furthermore what is this about, together with some drawings. Right? This is mainly for joint treatment. So using high quality waterproofing material, so this will result in preventing any further or any water damage that may occur in your structure. So with this, you reduce the risk of mold or even concrete damages, right, because of water. Because water, we often classify water as some of the strongest force in the world. Because of water, it will cause all sorts of problems to your surrounding. Yeah, I see some are nodding ahead, is in agreement. Yeah. Okay, so some critical area. So these are basically surrounding the tiles. This is to debunk some misconception. Some will think that because of tiles is an impermeable material, but here is to show you that tiles are a bit porous as well. Depends on the type of material, right? So if they are porous, right, that means water is able to pass through tiles, right? It's not an impermeable layer. Yeah, so as they allow water penetration, tiles are not 100% absorbent. Right, then another critical area as well is the joints, right? So joints, if you're using a cementitious joint especially, they tend to be more porous. That means there are a lot of air pocket inside, which allows water to pass through, right? But of course, for joints, there are different kinds of material. There's a cementitious joint, or later, if you look into our booth later, we do provide epoxy-related joints as well, right? So these are more watertight, promotes more water tightness compared to cementitious. And then another critical area, this side is very, very important. Most oftentimes, leakage occur because of this area, because of this particular area, the joints. So joints basically is the construction joint between two structures, whether is it the wall-to-wall joint or the wall-to-slab joint. Or another type of joint that often neglected or I would say less detailed or missed out would also be the joints between your downpipe outlet, your PVC downpipe, and your concrete slab. So these are also another critical area where water would able to leak through if not detailed properly with the waterproofing. Okay, so what happens if there's no waterproofing? Let's say if the project forgot or the client missed out a certain area with the waterproofing, what will happen? So without the proper waterproofing, so these are some issue that may occur, leakage and mold formation. Do not underestimate the issue of leakage, because leakage to the general layman or to general consumer, leakage is just leakage, right? Water can't in, so it's a problem that needs to be fixed. However, leakage will also cause further structural issue in the long-term wise, right? Because water enters through your concrete, it will start to corrode the rebar inside. As the rebar corrodes, it causes concrete spalling. So with that, you need to spend more money, not just on the leakage repair, but also on the concrete repair, right? Especially for, let's say, it's like a podium beneath the car park. This one is oftentimes a very big issue because the leakage is happening all around. Yes, either the facility management has neglected it, there's no repair, concrete starts to spoil. So they need to spend more money on the repair cost. All right, loose tile. This one, HAFIZ will talk more about it as well. So any water that can enter your structure, firstly, they will start to accumulate beneath your tile. And as it accumulates, it will start to cause some delamination or debonding issue. Right? So this is often another root cause of tile debonding or loose tiles. Right? Sure, some may occur. Sometimes loose tile may occur also due to thermal expansion or thermal movement. But water leakage will also result in loose tiles as well. Okay, so this is a bit of a quiz for you guys, also again to be more interactive. So let's see how we can categorize this area into whether is it a low water exposure, medium or high. So let's start with a public shower room. Public shower room is low, medium or high water penetration. High, correct. Public shower room high. Around bathtub and shower. Okay, the first answer was correct, was medium. not so, because people come out of the bathroom, not so too much water dripping out as compared to the public shower room. Right, around the tap, basically around your sink. Lower, yes, correct. Private kitchen floor. Low also. Okay, the floor in a walk-in shower. This one is high. This is quite high. Because this one is, people also just finish shower and then they come out, and then especially when they're standing, water all drip down. Yeah. Okay, wall in the shower tray is considered medium. Okay, because this is the wall, not the floor, wall. So we consider medium because it's mainly due to water splashing. Right, it's not water flowing. Okay, so some main properties, waterproofing wet room. Basically, there are two important properties here that you need to take note of. Firstly, is the water tightness, or we can say the performance of the waterproofing material. So water tightness is crucial. If your waterproofing material is not watertight, then can we consider it a waterproofing material? Not really, Right, so what is water tightness? It is the ability to, for a certain product to prevent any form of water penetration and exposure. Okay, another important property, this one also often missed out, crack bridging ability. Because you ask any engineering consultant or even engineers in general or even a contractor, they will never able to guarantee you that their concrete is crack-free. No such thing, because every concrete cracks. It's just a matter of how much extent. Right. Fortunately for wet room, because it's more static, so it's lesser risk as compared to outdoors. However, it's also important to take note that as your concrete cracks, your waterproofing material should or need to be able to withstand the cracks. Right. So generally for waterproofing mortars, there's a certain crack limitation. Usually it's up to 1 or 2 mm. Right. If you're considering a liquid applied, then definitely there'll be a higher flexibility. Just to take note that crack bridging ability is important. So concrete cracks, your waterproofing crack, then also is compromised. Okay, so in Malaysia or globally, there is no one sure standard for all kinds of area. But in Malaysia, the EN 14891 is the general standard that usually we conform to. Right, so this is more related to liquid applied water impermeable product for ceramic tiling or building finishes. The rest are more towards the European standard. By the way, take note, because later on, after our HAFIZ session also, we do have a short Q&A, and if you're able to answer, we do provide some freebies as well. Okay, here are some of the main highlights here, just to showcase some of the waterproofing technologies available. So firstly, again, this is the cementitious waterproofing mortars. Very easy to use, usually comes in 2 parts. There's a part A and part B, and then you mix it together, then you form a cementitious slurry, right? So also very easy to use. Basically, just use either a roller or using a trowel if you want to maintain the thickness, maintain the consistent thickness of your coating. All right. Some limitation is basically because it's cementitious, it's more rigid, so it does not able to readily withstand any extended form of movement, right? Like for example, if there's a balcony, it's a semi-exposed area, there tends to be a thermal expansion because due to exposure to the weather or the sunlight. So in that case, you need a more flexible material in that case. However, for wet room, basically a rigid material should be good enough. It depends on how much movement you're expecting. If your building is like an IBS system, you know, guys aware of IBS? Basically a prefabricated building system, then this area will tend to have more movement, then you need a slightly more flexible material to withstand these movements. Another one, liquid applied membrane, also easy to use, usually comes in a part A and a part B. If it's a water-based, then usually comes in a single component. Okay. Some limitation, it's not really limitation, but there is a higher requirement for this such material. So in order to apply a liquid applied membrane, generally you need to make sure that your buildings, there's a moisture requirement. The moisture usually cannot be more than 4%. 4%. I know paint, if you're using paint, usually the moisture tolerance is about what, 16% or 8%. right? But for waterproofing liquid applied, generally our substrate requirement is less than 4%. Yeah. But what does it provide is that it provides a better flexibility for your structure. Basically, it generates a higher performance compared to cementitious. Okay, another one, foil membrane. This one also not common here in Malaysia, but very common in Europe. So this type of membrane, how it works is that the membrane does not work by itself. To complement together with the membrane, there's usually an adhesive. Usually is with the cementitious waterproofing mortar. That means you apply the waterproofing mortar, you apply this foil membrane and stick directly on it. So with that you get a very good watertightness for your wet rooms. Yeah. Not too common because of basically because of the costing. Where it's usually proposed is either luxury residence or a swimming pool. Then foil membrane is usually considered because they want the extra assurance. Okay, another one, this is more towards the joint treatment. These are the seal tapes for all the corners and detailing. So what it does is basically, it is an angled fillet replacement. Because any form of waterproofing, as you'll see later in the drawing, you need something we call an angled fillet for all the corners. Basically, it's a 45-degree gradient provided to make sure that your waterproofing is able to upturn correctly without inducing too much stress. Because any 90-degree upturn not just for cementitious, for liquid applied, it will cause stress if it's a direct 90-degree sharp upturn. Right? So without angled fillet, it will usually cause a crack along the joints. Right? So, but sometimes a client does not want an angled fillet, they will go for a seal tape. Because the seal tape itself is a waterproofing material. Yeah. All right, another one, these are some of the more interesting, I believe some or most have never heard before. So there are such thing actually called a cementitious 2-in-1 waterproofing and tiling. That means this material functions as both a tile adhesive, but it's also a waterproofing material. So that's why I call it a 2-in-1. Yeah. So how is it applied? It's applied very similarly to as if you're applying a tile adhesive. Right. One concern for this is during the water ponding test. That means if you want to carry out a water ponding test, you need to apply this 2-in-1 material, and then you need to install the tile first, only because it must be a concurrent application. Right? So that means any water ponding test must be carried out after the tile installation. Yeah, so this is one concern raised by clients. Right. This is just to give you some knowledge. Right. Another one, this is also interesting. This one is concrete and masonry waterproofer. So this type of material is more latex-based and is designed to withstand against negative water pressure. Very common, this one very common in the US. However, because of how it works is act as a pore blocker. That means it blocks any sort of pore along the walls. That's why you can use it against negative water pressure. That means if for one room to another room is leaking to the other room, you can apply from the other room to block the leakage. But in US, because of the effectiveness of this material, it caused a problem of its own, right? Because in US, certain housing, you have some basement, right? They have a basement structure for their homes. So oftentimes, because of the high water table, basement leaks easily. So what they do is they buy this type of material, this latex-based material, they apply along the wall that is leaking. But because it blocks completely the pores or blocks completely the leakage, water is trapped inside their basement walls. So that means over a long period of time, the basement wall get damaged by it because water is stagnant there. Yeah, so this is, but it's not to say that this product is the risk high, but because they use it at basement. But if you use it just along the wet room, all this is generally fine because there's low volume of water. Okay, so here for the next few slides, just basically showcase what are the general build-out for waterproofing. So the classic system, this is very common in, I would say, 80 to 90% of your structures. Firstly, you have the substrate preparation. So number one, this substrate preparation is the most important procedure out of everything. If no matter how expensive, how much money you invest in the waterproofing system, if the substrate preparation is not done well or is not done by a well-trained applicator, then you will still cause issues because of poor substrate preparation. So after the preparation, generally there will be the waterproofing system, whether is it a liquid apply or is it a cementitious, apply 2 layers. And then if the client wants, they can apply a sealing tape as well for all the joint treatments. Then followed by the tile adhesive, tile grouts, and the joint sealants. All right, so this is our general build-up. Okay, so yeah, I want to see if I can point anything. Okay. So this is our general build-up. You can see usually all waterproofing material is applied directly onto the concrete material, right, with a 300 millimeter upturn. Then if you want, you also can have a shower wall treatment along the upturn. Usually it depends on the project. Some people want 1.8, some people want 1.6 meter height. Up to you guys. All right. But what I want to point to you guys is one common area that is usually missed out is usually the doorstep here. For this particular drawing, the waterproofing material is already applied to the concrete substrate, and there's no screed upturn, right? Here it's empty. There's no additional screed. However, certain projects, because they apply the additional screed protection, not just on the floor but also to the doorstep here. The doorstep upturn and then go over the door frame. Because of that, there's no waterproofing, so water can leak through the screed. And what happens is that, I say this is an issue because usually after your project is done and then you VP to the customer, then the customer usually hire a third-party, assessor to check for defects, right? And then they'll do a water pounding test for your wet rooms. So what happens is that if you have an additional screed on the upturn of the door frame, over it, then water will leak through the screed and you leak through the joints between the screed and your concrete substrate, right? Because there's no waterproofing, and then there'll be leakage. Then people will start blaming the waterproofing or start blaming as a defect, but when actually there is no detailing done around the screed. Yeah, can understand the issue I'm raising. Yeah. Okay, another system. This is some of the more advanced system. This is again using a foil membrane system. Again, there will be a substrate preparation, then followed by, in this case, this is a number 2 and number 3. Number 2, you can see the yellow membrane here. So how it's usually installed is they usually have a adhesive to complement with this membrane to bond with the substrate. So sometimes people will use the waterproofing mortar. Sometimes they use a tile adhesive also can, right? Then followed by the sealing tape, tile adhesive, and then the tile grouts. So this is one of the systems using a foil membrane. So one advantage of the foil membrane is that you can either install it along the concrete surface or you can install that on top of your screed material that is immediately bonded with your tiles. So this is one advantage of the foil membrane. It's more flexible, whether you want to install above or below. So some summary. These are usually the materials involved for your wet room system. So usually there's a primer because to enhance the bonding, there's a primer together with either your cementitious or liquid applied. Right, then there's also a sealing tape or angle fillet. Okay, for info, in case you don't know, angle fillet is this one. Here, you can see this triangle area here. This is the angle fillet to provide a gradient that is not 90 degrees. If they don't want angle fillet, then there is this solution using the sealing tape over here. Yeah. Okay, so again, there's a primer, sealing tape, then there's also the waterproofing layer, followed by your tile adhesives and your sealants for all the joints, especially the cornerings. All right, and then there is also a tile grouts. So whether tile grout, there's a few choices. Either you want to use a high-end cementitious, acrylic, or epoxy. So later on, if you want to find out more, our booth is outside to showcase these materials. Okay, so lastly, this is the end of my presentation here. So lastly, basically, this is a closure for my side is to basically to speak to us, right? Because in Sika, we have a large team full of experienced individuals. And also Sika is also involved in some of the biggest projects in Malaysia. And we have been waterproofing since 1910. This is the start of Sika company. Right? And in Sika, we have a wide range of products. Basically, we provide a one-stop solution, all the way from the basement to your rooftop, from the flooring to the waterproofing. I mean, from waterproofing to the flooring, to the building finishing, to your construction joints. Right? Okay, and then this basically all our solutions is aimed at reducing your risk and making sure that all our products provides value to your projects. And again, just speak to us because we have a team of qualified experts providing the specifications and your design support. We even have specifications on standby in case you want to you have any concern to your project or any problem faced, you can just talk to us later on. All right, so with this, thank you for your attention. Wait, before I continue, is it possible for me to take a selfie first? Can what?
So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, give us your best smile for the Wi-Fi. Oh, I just want to take pictures, so going to clap already. Self-congratulatory lot. Okay, so smile for Sika.
1, 2, 3. One more.
And they all look like they just came back from a funeral or something. Right? Nobody is smiling, man, seriously.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
All right, thank you, Mr. John Koh. And now for our second our second presentation, I'd like to call upon Mr. Muhammad Hafiz Ismail on stage. But of course, before I do, I would like to give you a bit of a bio. Engineer Muhammad Hafiz Ismail is the Business Development Manager for Target Manager Building Finishing and has more 10 years experience in the construction and building materials industry with a strong focus on wall and tiling solutions across Malaysian and international markets. He successfully delivered tailored solutions to meet diverse technical and project-specific requirements. And without further ado, I'd like to call upon our second guest for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. MC. It's okay. Just quick one. Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Hafiz Ismail. I'm from Sika, Malaysia. I'm currently in charge of the cosmetics of your buildings. So it's basically tile adhesive, tie grout, skim coat, and plastering products. So I'm very happy to be here, to have this opportunity to connect with you, architects like you who shape the skyline of Malaysia today and for the future as well. For today's session, for today's technical session, we will focus on the practical solutions as well as the technical know-how on the tiling for wet room solutions. So without further ado, let's begin. I will start off with the common tiling issues that we face in projects. I think all of us here, I can guarantee 100% of us face this issue in projects. So these three common issues that I will highlight today is the debonding, tile debonding issues, hollowness, and leakage. So just a quick one of tile debonding issues. When we receive complaints from our customers at projects, right, the first thing that we will check is the substrate preparation. So most of the root cause of these debonding issues coming from the substrate are not well done properly. Second, try to use this, okay. Sorry, I'm still new with this. Here you go. Okay. Second is the improper application of the tile adhesive. So some What I mean here is we need to use, the tilers are not using the right tile adhesive based on the type of tiles they're using that I will explain later on, and also their tile size. So these issues, okay, this is another issue that I would like to highlight because my team and I, Sika, we have faced this issue very, very common in our daily life, I would say. In this failure, in this issue, you will see that the tiles is fully detached from the substrate, from the tile adhesive, while the tile adhesive itself in the middle here, I don't know how to, yeah. The tile adhesive here, number 3, is fully bonded to the substrate here, underneath. So when we go to the sites, right, and we ask around and we do the observation, the first thing we will check is either the tilers, okay, sorry, we'll go to the application. We check how tilers are using our products, how tilers are using the tile adhesive. Normally, if you look at this, referring to this issue, when we look at tilers, they normally, what do, right? They mix, like say, 5 buckets or 5 pails, and they go to smoke. After 1 hour, they only come back, and they do the installation. That is the first root cause that we always found. The second is substrate. Okay, substrate preparation is very key here because the tile itself is like John mentioned just now. You know, tile itself is tile is not fully absorbent, and not fully non-absorbent. Sorry. So the substrate, who is not pre-wet before the tile installation, it may cause the water in the tile adhesive sucked by substrate. When it happens, it can allow debonds. You know, it may cause a debond of the tiles because the tiles is not properly adhere to the adhesion, to the tile adhesive. Second, the third point is when we found that we always observe that the tilers are not using the right tile adhesive based on the tiles itself, which I will explain later on how to choose the right tile adhesive for your application. This is very common, especially nowadays, right? When the homeowners receive the keys, the first thing they will do, they will hire inspectors. This is very common. And then when we receive complaint from our main con or from the developer, they will say, Sika, I need help because my clients, the homeowners, give me 100 of complaints of hollowness. What should I do? So this is very common. And then when we check, on the site, right, and then we ask, the first thing we will do, okay, we check on the hollowness, and then we ask the tilers to just take off the tiles to see at the back, to just check on the back of the tiles, is it fully covered by the tile adhesive or not. So this is a very important key here, very important note for you actually, to make sure that, to just minimize the risk of hollowness, we need to make sure the spread of the tile adhesive at the back of the tile is maximum. Okay. This is very common inspection. You know, I think most of the tiles adhesive manufacturer, we always use this when we receive complaint from our customers to check on the hollowness. This is the sound of hollowness. And then as I mentioned earlier, we will ask our tilers to just take off the tiles so that we can check what's happening at the back of the tiles. And it is very common when we receive a hollowness issue. The third common issue that we face in a construction site, in projects, is a leakage. So leakage is mainly because the application area is open to public traffic, open to traffic too soon before the adhesive itself is secured. This is very common root cause of this issue. The second point is the application and how the tilers install the tiles. So if you're not aware of this, actually at the back of the tiles there's an arrow. This arrow is made by the tile manufacturer so that it can guide tilers to install the tiles in one direction. The third point is the offset, the tile offset. So this is very crucial, especially for the rectangular tiles. The offset recommendation is 70 to 30. It's like this. Okay, this is the recommendation, 70 to 30. 70 here and 30. Not the 50-50 offset. So now I go to the how do we choose the right tile adhesive during installation. Because now we already know the three main issues that we face in the projects. When it comes to installations, tile installation, we have to make sure that, these three key points is very important. Choose your right tile adhesive for the application, the joint allocation, and most importantly, the workmanship. No matter how expensive, how good your product, the tile adhesive and tiles that you're using, if the workmanship is not good, it's not done properly before installation, will you have issue? When it comes to choosing the right tile adhesive, there are a few factors that we will always recommend our clients. Number one is the type of finishing or the type of tiles that you have in your projects. Is either ceramic, is either porcelain, is a small tile or big tiles. Second consideration or factors is the type of substrate. Because different substrate have different roughness, and also it has different of water absorption rate. So very common in projects we see nowadays, we have concrete wall, very smooth finishing if they are using the formwork. And we have a brick wall, very common. And nowadays we also see the drywall substrate. The last but not least is where you apply the tiles. Is it internal? For today's session, of course, in internal wet room or in an external application. Where normally for external application, where the area is exposed to direct sunlight, you will have or you require more higher technical performance of tile adhesive. Now I'll go to the first topic or the factors that I mentioned earlier, the type of finishes, type of tiles. In Malaysia, all tile manufacturers are following ISO 13006. And this ISO 13006, we have 5 groups of tiles. And this group of tiles, okay, the classes or the groups are classified based on the water absorption rate. So on the left side, you see here group 1A and 1B is mainly for the homogeneous and porcelain tiles, where the water absorption rate is less than 3%. When the water absorption rate is more than 3% up to 10%, there is, we call group 2A, 2B, and 3, it is ceramic or natural stones. It's very common in projects nowadays, we see the B1A category. So it's a porcelain with a dry press technology, manufacturing technology. Okay? Okay, you proceed to the next. The next important factor of the type of finishes or type of tile is tile size. So maybe 20 years back then, most common tile size is 1 feet by 1 feet. But nowadays, we can see the big tiles are coming in. The biggest tiles that I've seen is 1.6 times 3.2 meters. Not in Malaysia, in China. And our neighboring countries like Indonesia, Thailand, these trends are coming in. I am sure that it's a matter of time that in Malaysia we'll face this trend as well. The reason why I want to highlight on this is because the bigger tiles you are using, it requires higher technical performance, higher technical, flexibility of tile adhesive that I will share with you a little bit more details later on. The second part of the topic on how you choose the right tile adhesive depends on the substrate that you're using. So these three common substrate that I have seen personally is a concrete wall, brick wall, very common, and a dry wall. The second point is, the next point is the area where you apply this tile adhesive. So normally internal dry area like living room, the requirement is less stringent compared to the external application where there is heat involved. You know, the expansion of the tile, because tiles itself, it can be expanded and shrink. So this is very important for you, for your consideration when you choose the right tile adhesive. Just a little bit of the norms that regulates tile adhesive products. So globally, we have few standards. But in Malaysia, we focus on EN 12004. And what is it in EN 12004? It regulates the tile adhesive of cementitious tile adhesive dispersion, like acrylic base, as well as epoxy base, or resin, call it. So, but for today's session, I will mainly focus on the cementitious tile adhesive, where I try to be simplified as easy as possible so that you to understand. With the technical requirements for cementitious tile adhesive and EN 12004, this is the must-have. Number one is a tensile adhesion strength. So we measure tensile adhesion strength for the normal condition, thermal aging, or sometimes we call it heat aging. And third is the water immersion. In Malaysia, the freeze-thaw cycle, in this standard, we have also freeze-thaw cycles, but in Malaysia, we normally don't, it's not really concerned to us because we are not a four-season country. The next requirement in this EN 2004 is the open time for 20 minutes. Okay, this is the first part of the EN 2004. The second part of EN 2004 is the improved characteristic of tile adhesive. It's not compulsory, it's optional. Number one is, the first one is the T, or trisoctropy, or slip resistance, we call it. The minimum requirement is 0.5 millimeters. And the second improved characteristic here is, E, or extended open time. Here you go. The normal open time is 20 minutes. For extended open time is minimum 30 minutes. And we have also fast setting adhesive. But fast setting adhesive is very common in four-season countries, especially during winter. But in Malaysia, I see very rare. I mean, I haven't seen it, a fast setting adhesive in Malaysia. The third part of the EN 2004 requirement is for the flexibility of the tile adhesive. So you may have seen this, S1, S2. So S1 is the requirement of deformability between 2.5 millimeters to 5 millimeters, and S2 is above 5 millimeters. So this is an introduction of EN 2004 in a very simplest way. And this is how we test it in the lab. So we have a substrate concrete. You can see here on the right side. Sorry, I don't know where's the... Here you go. We have concrete substrate, we have tile adhesive, and we have tiles. This is where we test it in our lab. So what we should know, so in order for a tile adhesive to be classified as C1, it must have the minimum tensile adhesion strength 0.5 MPa for 28 days normal condition, number one. Number two is the water immersion test, 7 days at room temperature and 21 days at the soak in the water. And the heat aging. This is minimum requirement, plus the open time at 20 minutes. This is a must-have for C1. For C2, the test, speed weight, but for C2, it must pass minimum 1 MPa for this all three requirements: the room normal condition, water immersion, and the heat aging. That's the only difference. And the open time is the same for both C1 and C2, which is 20 minutes. So just a quick guideline on how you choose the right tile adhesive for your application. C1, which requires how many minimum tensile resistance strength? 0.5 MPa. It's normally recommended for ceramic tiles, which has higher water absorption rate. C2, which requires minimum 1 MPa of tensile adjustment strength for the porcelain tiles. And as you have more bigger tiles, minimum 300 by 600 millimeters, we already start to use extended open time because it allows you to adjust, to apply the tile adhesive at the back of the tiles, also to adjust the tiles when you install it. Slip resistant T for wall or vertical application. And S1 is mostly used for external application where there's direct sunlight. And S2 is not common in Malaysia. S2 is mostly common for countries where there is earthquake, like Indonesia. This is additional requirement that I would like to highlight, I would like to share here, I want to emphasize here today. John has shared just now about EN 14891. This is a waterproofing, liquid apply waterproofing layers that normally we test at site and also we test at the lab. You can see on the left hand side, waterproofing layer is tested on, the build-up is a substrate, waterproofing layer, tile adhesive and tiles. And according to this standard, where it's not only cementitious waterproofing materials, it's also the dispersion here, like LAM, liquid apply membrane, DM, and also RM, like resin, epoxy base. The minimum requirement, for this standard, for any types of tile adhesive, either C1 or C2, is a 0.5 MPa. So this is very common testing that you do at site when it comes to waterproofing layers. That's all for tile adhesive standards. Now I will move to how actually we choose tile adhesive for internal wet rooms based on the type of tiles. I just summarize it in a very, very, very simple way, to guide you, to help you to select the right products for your internal wet rooms area. So for ceramic tiles of this size, 300 by 300 millimeters, we recommend to use minimum, yeah? So minimum C1. We can go above, no worries. For porcelain tiles of 300 by 600, it's a C2 TE. So in the market right now, most of the players, most of the manufacturers, tile adhesive manufacturers, we have two different level of C2 TE products. We have a normal and we have also a premium, more premium. That means more adhesion strength. So porcelain tiles of 300 by 600, we recommend to use normal C2 TE. When it comes to bigger tiles up to 600 by 600, it is recommended to use C2 TE premium or high spec. And when it comes to porcelain tiles above 600 by 1200 millimeters, a C2 TE S1. So this is a general guideline for you when it comes to tile adhesive selection for your projects in the wet rooms. The next factor or the next important consideration is the joint allocation. It is very crucial to avoid the buckling issues, tiles buckling issues. So normally for wet room areas in the bathroom, we recommend to use to do joint treatment using the sealant at the joints, like exactly what John mentioned earlier. At the joint area like this, this is very critical areas in the wet rooms to avoid these buckling issues later on. Okay, I just move it. This is a very important part. I think I will spend more on this workmanship factor because it affects all of us. It affects the tile adhesive manufacturer, tile manufacturer, as well as you. The preparation work, the substrate preparation works, which is very crucial because It's very important to make sure the substrate is clean, no oil, especially when it comes to formwork application. There's always oil, so we have to remove that. And then before the installation, we have to make sure that it's a pre-wet. It's not really, it's not really flooded with water, just a pre-wet a little bit, so that the substrate will not suck water from tile adhesive. And then an additional point that we would like to highlight here is at the back of the tiles. Some tiles, actually, we can see the white powder at the back of the tiles. This is not it's very common, because it's the process itself. When they manufacture the tiles, they put some powder at the back on the tray, and then as a result, we can see the white powder at the back of the tiles. So we recommend our clients, our tilers, to actually clean the tiles at the back of the tiles to ensure better workmanship. This is also very, very important. It's very common. You can, if you go to the site, people or tilers normally they're using they mix, like I mentioned just earlier, they mix like 5 pails of tile adhesive. They wait until 1 hour. It goes smoke, makan and everything, and then only they come back. 1 hour is gone. So the normal recommendation for pot life at construction at the site condition is 30 minutes only. So imagine 1 hour. What happened to the mortar? It started to dry, especially on the top at the surface. Then the skin over will happen. And the tile adhesive, it's a pre-pack, so it's already, everything's already inside. You just have to add water. This nowadays it's rare to see this where tilers or applicators they added something else like cement or I don't know, additive. But now back then, I think 10 years ago, there's plenty of workers who add something inside. Or only God knows what's that. But please, if you see this at site, please make sure that, tell them you don't have to add anything else, just add water and mix. When the pot life is over, this has happened, skin over formation. So skin over formation is the thin layer of the mortar, especially when it's hot, too windy, then the skin over formation will happen. And what if the skin when the skin over is formed on the mortar, you can check with your hand, just touch it. If nothing stick on your hand, that means skin over is already formed. And what we can do, our recommend to site is we just remove that layer, just move that layer and then remix again. It can still be used. But for open time here, okay, when you apply on the tiles or on the floor of a wall, if the skin over happen, if the open time is exceeded, what you can do is, if you can see that you can touch it first and then you see there's no mortar on your hand, we can just trowel it again. Or if it really cannot be used, just remove it and apply another layer. This is the right practice and what we recommend to our tilers. Just a quick one. Based on the audience expertise or experience, which one is the best way of applying tile adhesive? Just a quick survey. Okay, who said it's back buttering? You can just raise out your hands. Who says troweling? Who say both of them? Okay, 2% are right. So that is the best practice. Both combination, back buttering and troweling, to make sure that we have a maximum coverage of tile adhesive. This is the animation, to show you when you do both, a combination of both, you have maximize the coverage of tile adhesive. Actually, we have a standard MS 1294 that requires us to have minimum 90% of coverage. another recommendation is to use the right notch trowel. Okay, this is you can also do the inspection, right, during the projects. You go to site. Okay, which side, the notch trowel side that you're using, for your tiles. This is just a minimum trowel size requirement, recommendation. So basically, you can see here, this is very common, 10 by 10 at site. And we can recommend it to use for 300 by 300. Of course, as you go bigger, tile adhesive, the tile size, you can, it's recommended to have a bigger notch trowel size. Yeah? This is the right process or installation process on how to install tiles at site. So as I mentioned, the best way of installing tiles is using the both back buttering and troweling. And then you put tiles, install tiles, you tap it to make sure it's the spread, we call it the tile adhesive spread evenly at the back of the tiles. Check the level. And just for confirmation, just turn over the tiles. This is something that we always do at the site when we go for inspection as well. Just to make sure our tilers are doing it correctly, we ask them to just pull the tile so that we can see the coverage at the back. If it's not fully covered, and then we ask them, okay, can you just do it again, or just add more tile adhesive to make sure it is fully covered. This is a good practice that we've seen so far. Covered, thank you so much. To cover the areas as minimum for 24 hours, just to make sure leakage issues or other issues that can happen in the future. I will finish with my the TileGrout products solutions that you can help you to cover to manage your project properly. So this is very common issues that we see in the tie joints. Efflorescence. This is very common, especially for the cementitious tie grout. This is mostly because of the way we apply the products, and for swimming pool area, normally we recommend a higher spec of tie grout. Unfortunately, in Malaysia, most applicators are using a very basic tie grout, CG0 or CG1 tie grout, which is not enough for this type of application. This is also another issue very common in a tie grout application, the discoloration of tie grout. And in order, I know in the market we have cementitious tie grout, we have epoxy, dispersion, acrylic base, but I would like to highlight that epoxy tie grout is the best. I know it's it's a bit more expensive and whatnot, but then it helps you to actually give a better, first of all, a better finishing. Because most of the product epoxy, it comes in the one set. So the color discoloration risk is minimized, and it has better performance. Normally, it's waterproof. It's much better than cementitious tie grout, and also it helps you to be more durable. Okay, I see my Mr. MC. Sorry, give me notification. I have some quiz. Can I get the 5 minutes? Okay, or it can also part of the Q&A session. Yeah, okay. We have some, small gift. John, maybe you can come also. So this is the first question. What is the right steps for wet room application? Okay, it's not arranged according to the right, sequence. Anyone will try to will try?
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, as he has mentioned, we're going to begin with the Q&A. So technically speaking, can we get both the speakers to come up, and then we're going to start with the Q&A, right? Okay, so let's just combine the two, the Q&A and the quiz. So let's get our speakers here. But before you do, let's give them both a round of applause. Mr. John Koh and of course, Encik Mohamad HAFIZ ISMAIL for the talk. So let's get back to the quiz, and I'll let the gentleman conduct.
Thank you so much. So anyone would love to try this question? Okay. This is a lady. With the mask.
3124.
3124. Is it correct? 3? No.
Actually,
It's correct. It's okay. It's okay. 124 is okay.
yeah.
Actually, it's the right answer. Congratulations.
This can be either way.
Yep.
For two and one.
Yep. You're right. Small gift.
Okay, congrats to our first winner. Is that someone's PIN number, by the way, or ATM machine or something? 3214. Okay, so can we have the, is there a second question to the quiz? Yeah. Oh, we got 5 gifts. All right, 5 gifts to give away. All right.
Okay, this one is a bit of multiple choice. So why is waterproofing needed in wet room? Yeah.
Of course, to avoid leakage lah.
That's one. Any more?
More than one answer.
Yeah.
No lah.
Multiple choice.
No lah, I stick to one only.
Just one is a bit incorrect. Anyone want to try? Yes. Sorry, 1 and
To protect the substrate.
okay, 1 and 3. Let's see. So this is correct. Okay, it's not meant. Waterproofing is not meant as a UV protection material. And then yes, avoid leakage, and actually it's to avoid loose tile also, but we can give. Right. One thing I want to add on here. So here to prevent sun damage, because a lot of people think they can just apply the most basic material, for example, for their rooftop. Let's say a car porch, right? Because we did encounter a lot of situations where the client, usually it's homeowners, they apply a cementitious waterproofing for their roof slab. However, they did not take note of how, because it's directly exposed to outdoor, then it will cause a rapid shrinkage, and as a result, your cementitious coating will crack. Yeah, so this is just an add-on, right? Okay, next question. I think this is the last one for waterproofing. So which waterproofing and tiling solution is the fastest? This one is more logical. Anyone? Okay, one lady there says number 2. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, the 4th one. So which are the relevant standard applicable for tile adhesive? This one, see, got pay attention on this now. sorry. The first.
Number 1.
Number 1. Correct. Okay, last one. Which product are the recommended adhesive for homogeneous porcelain tiles? Behind that, there's one.
It's for both normal size and big size. I'm giving a hint here.
Testing.
C2TS1.
Who say that? Sorry.
There's a gentleman behind there.
C2TS1 only.
C2TE also.
Yes, the right answer.
Okay. Okay, so how much time do we have left? 5 minutes. Okay, so we have 5 minutes. We'll take any question that you have related to waterproofing and tiling. Yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
Sharizal here from JDP Architects. Do you guys give like technical support is there any minimum purchase before you can send someone to site and do product demonstration and whatnot?
Good question. Generally, yes, we do provide technical support.
Any minimum order?
Okay,
or
the minimum order
quantity?
is more related to our warranty policy, lah, right? Generally depends on what's the issue you face. It's also good to
No, it's like an OJT to the workers, because we kind of hit.
to workers.
Yeah,
So
because-
this is more towards the applicator training. lah,
Correct.
That which yes we do provide, and for example for any projects related lah, we will make sure that the applicator selector is properly trained by SICA, so that they will know how to use our products properly. lah.
Yeah, it's both for waterproofing and
Tile
tiles,
resistant as
right?
well.
Tile
Tile
resistant
resistant
as
well.
as
We do provide
Because we kind of sick of arguing with this uncle. I lay tiles 30 years, I do swirl for 30
Yes.
years, everything. So
That's a good point. That's why in any projects, especially if our products is used, it's always good to verify with us whether the selected applicator is an approved applicator of SICA or not. That means they have attended our training course, we have trained them theoretically and practically
that's
for our
more
products.
to
Yes.
that's more to waterproofing, right?
Waterproofing, tiling as
is also-
well. Actually, any form of, it depends on what product, we do provide the relevant training.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks.
Because it's not just your reputation, it's our reputation as well.
You can raise a question to us actually for tile adhesives.
Yes.
We will help. We will help to provide.
Yes. Any more questions? Well, if can more related to wet rooms or any problems that you guys encounter that you have been facing for a long time, but then somehow you cannot address like that.
Well, in
Yes.
in the interest of time, we have about 5 minutes, so let's take a couple of questions from the audience.
Yeah.
And please introduce yourself, where you're from, and who the question is for.
I'm Walter here from Walter and Joe Architect Associates. I think you're promoting epoxy tile grout, right? Is there any way that we don't need to put the ceiling masking tape, because I think they will slow down the work?
Yes, there is a way. We have this what call it? It's like wax. It's a wax that we can put actually on the joints before you apply the epoxy grout. So it'll be easier for you to remove the tile grout later on. We can we can have a look at our booth later on, how we apply the products.
Yes.
Does that answer your question, sir? Yeah, okay, great. Can we have a couple of more? Because we will break at 10:30, which is about 5 minutes from now, and then we'll come back at 11. So let's have a couple of more questions from the audience. Okay, well, and I'm just curious on my part as well. Substrate preparation obviously is a key portion that needs to be done before we actually lay out the tiles, right?
Yep.
Okay, assuming you go to a site and let's say the substrate preparation needs to be done because the condition itself, the existing condition, is less than ideal. So what can we, what proposals can you tell us to say that, okay, despite the fact that the substrate doesn't look too good, we can still do it necessary? What are the steps to allow for effective application of the adhesives or the tiles and all that?
Oh, we still have to minimize it. There's no way. There's no other answer for that. So we still have to minimize the, do the maximum that you can do. Minimize all this dust, and then try to make sure that it's pre-wet before you apply tile adhesive. That's a very basic, bare minimum requirements for us. I hope you answer your question. Please. That's right.
Because I'm sure most of the members of the audience agree. Sometimes, we tell them to do these things and they still don't, So
Yeah.
we've got to find the best solutions possible.
Yep. I understand.
No matter how many AIs we keep issuing. Okay, yes, we have a question. Yes. We're going to pass you the mic. Give you a second.
Oftentimes that when you have a bathrooms, and then the room next to the bathroom is always moldy, and always wet and damp and like that.
Okay.
What's the cause of that?
What's the cause? Basically leakage.
And
Water stagnant, water leak through, water stagnant along the wall. Whether is it a dry wall or is it a concrete wall, then because of water stagnant there, it will accumulate all the bacteria around the area. So with that, it promotes mold growth.
what's the preventive actions that we
Okay.
should do in order to avoid?
Okay, preventive
such a
action, you have a
problem?
few. Basically, one option is a very common option in Malaysia use would be a PU injection. PU injection. Yeah, because usually all this leakage comes from usually from a particular wet crack. Yeah. So that is one of the solutions lah. PU injection also involves certain workmanship. It depends on the workmanship in order to be effective, because there's a lot of misconception around that PU injection does not work because water is just run off here and there. That depends on your projects, right?
Yeah. What if it's a new project? You know,
Yeah, okay.
What should we do?
Yeah, it's a new project. If you can capture this during the water ponding test, that is the best thing. Then what you can do is basically to redo the waterproofing for that particular section behind it.
I mean, in terms of waterproofing, applying to the
Correct.
to the walls.
Yes, correct.
So how high?
Basically, usually all this mogul occurs around the upturn area. So that's why we promote all our coating upturn to be 300 mm. That is the safe height, generally. Yes. Yes, as you said, the best time is to capture it is during the water ponding test. So you cannot just observe the leakage at the floor below. You have a building, you have a room next door. Observe the room next door as well.
But the thing is, you know, even though the water ponding, what you call the test, was okay, but the problem occurs, you know, like later. It's like
later on, during
you know,
the later
after
stages of the construction, or even after
yeah.
VP, right?
Yes,
Yeah. So during that time, the best way is still doing the PU already, because that is the least destructive way. Unless the customer is willing to remove all the existing tiling and then to redo the waterproofing. Of course, I would still say that is a good way, but that is more costly.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
So I guess this probably happens during DLP as well.
Yes, hopefully you can
Defects
capture
by
it during the
leaching.
DLP. Because after the DLP, then it's all borne by the owner.
Yeah.
Actually, that is not exactly true. DLP, during the DLP period, is the responsibility of any leakage is borne by the by the contractor, or if it's a high rise, is still the contractor. But however, usually waterproofing, they provide up to a 10 years warranty. So it depends on your facility management or whether to keep track of the documentation. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 10:30 sharp. I think let's take a moment right now to once again thank both our gentlemen here for your time.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Alente, of course, is the founder and principal of Atelier Alente Architect, AATA, an award-winning architectural practice. I'm sorry, did somebody call my name? Was it? Okay. An award-winning architectural practice established in 2005 and is based in Kuala Lumpur. Over the past 2 decades, AATA has evolved into a medium-sized firm with a wide portfolio, from large-scale housing and mixed development to commercial, industrial, healthcare, and uniquely crafted private residences. The practice is known for its versatility and has explored alternative materials such as bamboo and recycled containers. Without further ado, I'd like to call upon architect Alente to come on stage, and it is a great honor to ask him to do so. Please give him a round of applause.
The mic is rather high tech, so better use this one. Okay. Okay, let me familiarize myself with the pointer first. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alente. I see that there are many senior practitioners here today. I feel very humble to be here to share some of our works. The talk here is titled Responsive Sections. So talking about sections because a lot of times we design spaces and buildings using sections, and often a lot of so-called client or layman or owner do not understand the idea about sections. They just look at space as a plans, how they want to plan the spaces in plan, and this is where they can, I think they can manage or they can grasp an idea of the building. But for us, I think sections, as you all know, forms the important part of the building. You know, with sections, we craft space. We look at how the upper and lower level can be connected. So this year also coincides with our firm's 20th anniversary. So I was graduate architect in 2000, came back to Malaysia. I studied in Tasmania, Australia. And then 2004, I got my Part 3, registered as corporate member. And then 2005, very gung-ho and came out on my own. So without any client base and, you know, those days also without any social media. So it's not easy to sell your services to potential clients. But we have gone through 20 years. And this year we celebrated our 20th anniversary with a public exhibition in Temu House in PJ. And PAM President, Architect Adrianta, was very supportive and came to the opening. And that's how he recommended to the CPD committee for me to do this sharing. So I just selected some works here. But before that, I think I will just share with you my background. I'm from Bukit Pentajam, Penang. I was born in this kampong house, you know. It's a Chinese village, half brick, and the upper part of the building is actually timber. Used to have an atap roof, but later changed to zinc roofing. So this on the right is actually my family members, my dads and my uncles and aunties. This was taken before the house was being demolished because the house is squatting on somebody else's land, and the landowner sold the land to a developer. I had a lot of fond memories growing up in this house, and I think somehow it shaped and so-called influenced my design in later part of my professional life. I studied in Tasmania. It's a small island state. I think most of the Australian graduates would probably study in Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Adelaide, Queensland, but I think Tasmania would be the last choice. But it happened so I was offered a scholarship, so I had to go there because that saves a lot of the school fees. And in Australia, during the formative years, you know, in Tasmania especially, because there's not many, it's rather a rural setting. We study in the city of Launceston, only 200,000 population. And some of our lecturers and professors, there's a lot of small, beautiful houses in the natural setting, compared to the Melbourne school and Sydney school, where most students would be exposed to more of a urban nice setting and urbanized design. Where we started the first year in our work is to actually explore building in the landscape context, looking at the spaces orientation. So inevitably you have to deal with the sections, because with the kind of the roof and openings where you bring in natural light into the spaces. So we are exposed to sustainable design in the very early stage. So even without GBI, we naturally are inclined to design very natural responsive spaces. So it teaches us how to appreciate nature, because although I grew up in the kampong, grew up in Malaysia, there are a lot of green spaces, but we never appreciate nature. So only after I studied in Australia that I came back and see that our country is very beautiful, and there's a lot of the things we can do as an architect to preserve our pristine nature. Yeah. And during my study in Tasmania, I also went for a student exchange to Norway. So that was, I think, the biggest and most important decision I made as a student as well. So rather than just stay in Australia, because Australia is so isolated, you can't see those buildings like those modernist buildings, Corbusier, Alto. If you go to Paris, there are so many beautiful buildings that we study in textbooks, but we never have a chance to experience. So I took the chance and went for a student exchange to Norway, and I backpacked there for 2 months as well, around Europe, about 9 to 10 countries for 2 months. Yeah. As an induction course to the student architecture in first year in Norway, in Bergen, we actually had to build a small building in the forest, and the timber was sponsored by the timber plantation company, because all this furniture you see in IKEA, all these timbers are actually plantation timber, so they are considered a sustainable material, because you don't chop down those the so-called the rainforest or whatever, the forest, the real timbers or the old timbers, but they harvest all these plantation timbers for the furniture and the building industry. So we had to build a small structure without any knowledge. So the students, come together and make a model of it, and then start the building. And we only spent about 2 weeks there in the forest to build this. And you can see that there's actually a collection of buildings already, because it started from, it's a tradition there that one batch and another follow through and build these collective buildings. And I also managed to rent a beautiful house owned by an artist. He's a printmaker, and he converted these so-called the farmhouses into his studio. So the experience of living in this kind of building also, I think, helped me to shape how we design spaces as well. Yeah, this is my third year work as a student. So after I came back from Norway, we were working on this in the third year studio, so-called Surfers Community Center. So you know, Australia is very famous for surfing, and a lot of youngsters, they pick up surfing at a very young age. So the design is actually a dialogue between the buildings and the natural landscape, working with the sand dunes, the cliff, and you know, so the buildings are actually scattered around the various parts of the landscape, and I try to depict how the building were actually designed in sections. Some is in platforms, and some have monopitch roof, some have butterfly roof. But each of it respond to a specific site conditions. So I think this is like a pretext to the projects that I'm going to show you later. So I finished my thesis based on a site in, of course, my hometown. And then this was my presentation, and I came back to Malaysia. I didn't choose the path of staying back in Australia with a work permit or so on and so forth. Probably I didn't appreciate the so-called the laid-back lifestyle of Australia. So I came back to KL. I started working under two firms, PAB and Archipractice, before I got my patri and set up on my own. So these are, coincidentally, all the corporate colors of the firms are green color. Yeah. So we went through two offices as well, 2005 in a 600 square feet office, and 2011 we moved to a bigger office to PJ to be closer to our main clients. Yeah. And for our office also, our staff strength grew from 3 to 5 to 10 to now we have about 25 people. And one of the major milestones of my career is also that I set up an art gallery in the 2011 when we moved to the second office. So through this art gallery and curatorial work, I get to know a lot of people from different backgrounds as well, from the arts industry, not just working with developers, but we have managed to network with people from the arts, and we are invited to curate art exhibition and art festival as well. This is Kedah Party Festival, and we designed a pavilion, exhibition pavilion using containers and bamboo next to the rice field. It's a very interesting project. And all these people who came here some of them are performers, some of them are actually locals who bring their children to experience what is the meaning of the paddy cultivation. And we had one season in the cultivation, and then we have also a harvesting session as well after 3 months. Picture in the middle is also this Makcik. She's actually a petani. She's a paddy farmer. She came here, she joined, participated, and she actually teach all the young children how to plant the paddy. And through this activity also, I get to know start to build or accumulate my own, so-called develop my own philosophy about architecture. It's something that you don't set out to do. Sometimes you don't know what is the philosophy or what is the kind of takeaway that you can get from the project. However, it's through the doing it and through practicing it, then you start to actually develop your own ways of thinking and ways of seeing things. So the first project I'm going to show you is actually a very simple, most of us, on and off, you will deal with this kind of terrace house renovation, whether it's your friends or your relative, ask for some help, Okay, the kids growing up, they want their own spaces, they want their own attached bathroom, and maybe they want an additional program to the space, so we have to help them to actually renovate the terrace house. And this one particularly is actually a friend of mine as well. So during COVID, he told me that this house is leaking and then he wanted to do something with it. So these are the condition of the property. You can see that it's basically in Subang Jaya. Single car porch. We managed to convince him to keep it as a single car porch. That's a view of the rear of the building with all the aircon stacked on top of the first floor. A typical terrace house in Malaysia would be that the priority would be the living room, but most of the owners would extend the car porch to double car porch. So therefore, the living room is always very dark. You have to turn on light even at daytime. Dining is stuck in the middle with no natural light, no views. A very introverted space. Maybe they hang a piece of oil painting, or they hang the batik in that space to just decorate it. But the dining room actually has also don't have any natural ventilation. And the kitchen at the back with the guest room make the space even worse. That prevent any light from coming into the center of the space. So what we did was that we kind of changed the whole idea. We want to make the house, bring in natural light. Also, we reverse the location of the dining towards the back of the house. You can see here the section, the open kitchen, and then the dining is at the back. So the original dining area just become a part of the lounge area, the living space. And the front as well, we try to bring the so-called the concept of the lanai in front of the living room. So there's a so-called these axiomatic sections showing all the green element actually is the new attachment or new extension to the original house. Even you can see here the detail of the car porch here. We did not so-called attach the whole car porch roof to the building, but create a gap here that brings in some natural light into the entrance to the living room or the house. The full floor plan showing the addition. So the works is actually just the front and the back. Okay, the center part of the building with the staircases are all maintained, so that we can maintain we can also manage costs. Yeah, only the front addition of the so-called the foyer or lanai, and you can see the detail of the car porch there with the little pocket garden. Towards the back, the traditional so-called kitchen and guest room kind of division. We took out all the walls and then we put all the so-called the nitty-gritty things on the left with the storeroom, a bicycle store because the client is actually an avid cyclist, and then the powder room as well. So that line up on the left, that opens up the whole dining and the kitchen area. Of course, the kitchen is an open kitchen concept. Then there's a pocket garden in the back as well. So the front and the back, we actually brings in some natural greenery and natural light to the space. Of course, talking about sections is an important part of design, so we show you the details of the so-called the section. You notice also the first floor, there's also some addition at the back. That's actually the laundry area. So all the bedrooms upstairs, they don't need to bring the laundry down to do the laundry and bring it back again to the upper floor bedrooms. So they do the laundry upstairs, and then it's so convenient. Yeah. The laundry room also has a skylight, as shown in the sections. So this is the end result. You can see, the important thing I think is the single car porch that makes so much difference to the living room, because the living room now has a view towards the outside, towards the garden, with the lanai. Yeah, initially we actually proposed to have a louvers underneath this skylight. Okay, but the client said I don't have so much budget, so maybe I can leave it to a later part. If I can live with it, then it's okay. But we managed to convince him to upgrade this glass canopy to a low E double glaze glass, so that it prevents the excessive solar radiation into this space. And the couple enjoy this space because they do yoga every day in the morning. Yeah. So the rest in the interior for the living room is actually kept intact. So the architecture, we have to blend in with the existing as well. Yeah. There's a blow-up detail of the sections of the lanai area, you can see, with the louvers detail below the double glazed roofing. But the client actually later on they added in automated blinds because he felt that, I think it's time to do something about it. Although he actually helped me to check the average temperature. Below this is about 26 in the morning. By the time it reached noon, it's 30 degrees. So 30 degrees still, he thinks it's bearable, but I think he is, for me, is above the comfort zone really. Yeah. So this is a view of the dining area and the kitchen, open kitchen. You can see the walls are actually designed as a concealed door, so that when it's closed up, it's very nice and neat. You don't have so many doors, from that open kitchen area. And also we sort of introduce some LED concealed lighting as well to beef up the space. The whole wall is become a feature wall. So then the open kitchen actually connects to the dining at the back. So this is the open dining area. And then once it's with the folding door open, you actually can enjoy the natural breeze into the space. So although the pocket garden is only 4 feet, but actually it's good enough. It effectively brings nature into the outside into the inside. And also with this brick wall, feature brick wall, it also brings in natural breeze into the space as well. And another thing to talk about is the detail sections here. Just now, the speaker from Sika talks about waterproofing, talks about how to prevent water from moisture from damaging our concrete substrate and causing leaking. The other things that we have to look at is also how we can design our bathroom to be more environmental friendly and also more user friendly. In this case, we actually designed this bathroom space with the use of these adjustable louvers, but it's opaque, fully tinted. I think it's aluminum panels. Yeah, lightweight aluminum panels. So it actually gives you the flexibility when the client is taking a shower, then you can close up the lower level up to the, you can leave the top portion open so that it still have this natural ventilation in and prevents from, the heat from the hot shower from condensation and, with all this condensation happening on the ceiling and the wall. While if it's not using the shower, say for example, the client is just brushing his teeth, he can actually turn on the full louvers as well to have a full ventilation. And even after shower, at any one time, they can just open up the full louvers so that it will dry out the space. Yeah. So I think a lot of time we don't take, we don't consider all this because most of the time we say, okay, the bathroom just have a small top hung window, complies the UBBL, and that's it, But if we put in more effort, put in some thoughts, I think we could have improved the daily lifestyle of the owner much, much better. Yeah. And I think this one, you can look at this comparison between this window or this louvered wall with the traditional Malay kampung house. They are so much in similarity in terms of inviting, providing natural sunlight and also have a very good ventilation. So some of our spaces actually inspired by the traditional architecture you can find in Malaysia, be it Malay or the Chinese typology. The next project is actually courtyard terrace housing. So we are taking up to another level. From a small terrace house renovation, we try to explore the idea of sustainability in a larger scale. In this case, this project is actually just 2 rows of terrace house located in BM, Bukit Mendajiam, and it's the row at the bottom is actually facing the lake, and the row at the top is actually facing existing housing. When we did the master plan, or so-called the layout planning, we initially planned as 20 by 70, but the client wanted to push it to 1870. That means 18 feet width, so that he can gain 2 extra units for the total units. And in doing so, he can increase his GDV. You know, no doubt, you know, working with developers, we have to deal with all this feasibility. But then within this, whether this opportunity allow us to study or explore the sustainability issue in a so-called larger scale of buildings. So here we try to introduce the idea about internal courtyard, and we are so inspired by these traditional shop houses you can find in like in Georgetown, Penang, and also in Malacca, where the courtyard is used as a device to bring natural light and ventilation to the spaces deep inside the so-called the traditional shop house typology. Some in Malacca you can find double or triple courtyard. Yeah, Penang also is quite common to have double courtyard inside because the lot is pretty long, 100 to 120 feet. So this courtyard serves as a space for family members to gather as well, because this is naturally you have the natural light, and then it's breezy as well. Yeah. So to us, it's like the courtyard not just serving the environmental needs of the house, but also it serves as a social space, as a kind of a central gathering spot for the property or for the house. Yeah. So this is basically the floor plan. Yeah. You see that you know, the courtyard is basically just an airwell. Yeah, it wouldn't qualify as large as a courtyard in the traditional shop houses. However, this device actually changed the whole planning of a typical terrace house. You can see that we actually moved the staircase to the middle part of the house next to the courtyard, so that we open up the full living area. So the living room actually enjoys a 80 feet wide space compared to a typical terrace house. Some of the typical terrace house, although it's 20 feet or 22 feet, but it has a staircase that goes up to the upper floor. That staircase is already 4 feet. So with the 20 feet terrace house, you lost 4 feet already from the start, right? So in this case, we actually move the staircase to the back so that the staircase and the dining area forms the heart of the house. Because in Malaysia, Chinese, Indian, Malay, food is our important part of daily life. Makan is a very so having a meal together is so important. So we link up the dining, the staircase, and the courtyard together so that this become kind of a nice gathering spot for the family members. And also you notice that the bathroom at the back also was shifted to the center of the house, because with the courtyard or the airwell, we can provide natural ventilation. Okay? And it frees up the space at the back of the house. Both of the bedrooms now enjoys very huge openings, because traditionally that bathroom create a king, and those two bedrooms are actually very poor in terms of quality of light, and you don't have much flexibility in the furniture arrangement, right? Not even have the windows also is actually very small. Yeah. So I think this one is one strategy that solves many issues within the planning and design of a terrace house. This is a conceptual section, because we talk about sections, so we want to show how the section works. So this airwell or this courtyard actually provides cooling effect also, and also brings natural light into the internal space. Yeah. The picture below on the right is actually another renovation we did for a friend. Notice that we gutted out the ceiling, so we actually exposed the timber trusses. It's so beautiful. But in this case, nowadays most of the terrace housing, the roof trusses are using composite metal, which is not very nice to look at. So no choice, we have to have a ceiling. However, with this courtyard, I think with the elevated roof, that at least balance out the flat roof for the first floor. So this is a view of the so-called the courtyard or airwell. You can see that there's so many openings facing this, right? There's a huge windows that opens to this. Then there's on the upper part we have some ventilation block as well for the front and the back. And on the top, we introduce this Monier skylight. Just 4 pieces, sufficient to increase the lux level to a very satisfactory level. Yeah. So even this, you can see that the space is quite bright actually, without any artificial lighting. So to us, it's very sustainable to live in this kind of housing. And this is a view when it's under construction, the living room, full 18 feet wide, without the staircase. So the staircase forms part of the so-called part of the dining area, and that stairwell actually also introduced kind of like a double volume skylight coming into the ground floor as well. And there's a window on the left. This is also brings some natural light into the living room. Yeah, because most of the time we will have a double car porch in the front. Yeah, this is the stairwell. Stairwell also introduced like an air well and a light well into the lower ground of the space. And it connects the upper floor, family area, to the dining space below as well. So most of the terrace house actually divides the upper floor and the lower floor clearly. There's no interaction between the upper and lower floor. So yeah, that's basically just a rendition of the floor plans. So this is a visualization of the dining area. So the staircase, below the staircase, there's maybe one can turn into a interesting or nice seating area, or maybe a study desk. And we have a sliding door that brings natural light and ventilation to the internal space. So this was taken just, I think, right after we finished the tiling and the finishing work, with all the aluminum windows and doors installed. You see, without any artificial lighting, the wires are still exposed there. I think the light ambience is considered quite good already. Yeah, in our opinion. So this is the end result, the first so-called the full row of the terrace house. You notice that we also did not go for the mirror, left and right mirror design. We actually use the same design, we just repeat itself. So I think the house has a more individualistic look as well. And with the party wall, and then there's the courtyard roofing over it, which is set in from the front elevation. That gives you a more three-dimensional feature to the house. Yeah. And we also introduced some, we call it the facing brick. Of course, due to cost budget constraint, we turn the facing brick. We only can live with facing tiles instead, Suzuka tiles, just to have that color. Yeah. So this is the finishes that were involved, from acrylic skylight, van block, facing tiles. We wanted to have some scheme, off-form scheme for the wall as well, but the client opted for a painted finish. Yeah. Okay, that was the second project. Now we are looking at the third project. This is different. This is not a housing. This is actually a school. It's located in Bukit Bertajam. It's my alma mater, high school. The site is actually located next to the river, Sungai Juru. On the blue color ones are all the sports facility. Okay, and then in the middle is actually the main school building, which was completed about 30 years ago, 1993. So when we took up this project, the school board actually wanted us to design a new academic block to house 35 classrooms, one set of computer labs, which is 4 labs, physics, chemistry, bio, and general science, and also several computer labs and a new canteen as well to cater for the needs of the students that have the full day schooling, rather than previously they have morning and afternoon session. Now they are going to do it the full session in the morning. And the site was actually previously a car park, so we had to build a 3-story multi-story car park to actually fulfill the car parking requirement. And the site actually is facing a river stream along the east-west that's linked to the Sungai Juru as well. Yeah, but I think the good thing is that although it's very long and narrow, it's facing north and south. So in terms of passive design, it's just perfect because you don't have to worry about the morning sun or the afternoon sun. Of course, dealing with schools, you know, most of the time, I think those of you who are working with JKR are actually stressing on IBS. And they want fast, speedy construction, quality construction for the school building. But in my opinion, I think JKR's approach of this, treating it as a kind of construction challenge to have a speedy construction and neat, good finishing, I think doesn't answer to call for quality education. Yeah, we need to look at schools building beyond just purely a technical challenge. Yeah, in our opinion, I think the school nowadays, especially for 21st century, should move beyond, you know, teaching in the confined space of a classroom. Nowadays, the kids are very smart. They don't even need to come to the class because they can find all the subjects matter in YouTube. You know, even YouTube, they teach you everything. How to bake a cake, how to do anything, you know. So the kids actually, if you don't design inspirational space for them, I think they'll lose interest in coming to the school. So that's our approach when we given the task. We try to do something different, but in the same time fulfilling what is the basic space requirement for under the GCAR standards. Yeah. So the important thing we did was actually try to kind of change the composition. You know, if you design the school, you can just follow the brief. Number of classrooms, number of science labs, you can just stack them up with a very modular grid. Here we try to disrupt the planning or organization of some of the spaces so that it create a more interesting composition for the space. Yeah, this is a so-called the view of the new extension versus the existing school, the main school hall. Yeah, the composition try to kind of still respect the central axis of the school hall, and the facade here is try to bring more interesting elements to this padang, although the padang is not very well maintained as shown here. Yeah, so this is I think important section of the building that demonstrate how we approach the subject matter. On the right hand side is all the classrooms stacked up on each other. The ground floor is elevated 4.5 meter to have the canteen, so that it brings natural cross ventilation to the canteen. Whereas the upper floor, the four levels are classrooms, and on top of it is the science labs. And to complement that, we actually extended the corridor width from the standard 5 feet to minimum 10 feet. And some of them even extended out all the way to the edge of this, the left-hand side grid, so that you have a series of platforms that connects the various levels of the classrooms. So in doing so, we also introduced a very interesting staircase that link up all the spaces together. Yeah, this is a technical section. Of course, so on the left-hand side is all the framing. Some of it has planter boxes, and the framing also can support these sun shading devices as well. So the sun shading devices reduce the amount of rain splashing into this so-called open terrace. Of course, the open terrace has to be waterproof. So try to link up with the topic raised by Sika just now. All this open terrace actually is waterproof with a slope against the edge here. And then we have scupper drain on all levels, yeah, so that there won't be any water ponding on those terraces. And you can see also actually the terraces spaces, the ceiling is higher than the classroom ceiling. So that raised ceiling with the cross ventilation through it will actually have a cooling effect. So there's a stack effect that going up, for all the hot air will go up, and also it also has the cross ventilation through the classroom, through the space. Yeah, so the classroom actually is all natural ventilated and no issues about the median temperature because it's so cooling. Even without the ceiling fan turned on, sometimes when the wind is very strong, you can see the ceiling fan is turning by itself. So some of the spaces, so-called the open terraces, of course on the first floor is actually landed at the public auditorium. So in the front there, we actually design a kind of like a amphitheater space for students to gather. Yeah, and the staircase, the main staircase, this one is a feature staircase, which is non-bomba fire escape staircase. We have the typical staircase already, but this is an additional staircase because we feel that the bomba staircase is not conducive to connect people. But this one actually connects the people because it's fun to walk on. Yeah, so this is a diagram of showing the staircase. They are not on the typical design. Actually, each of it actually connects the levels at the different intervals of the building. Also, we introduced two little study pods. It's not for study actually, it's for students just to hang out and interact. So kind of like a pausing point. If you walk from the top down, there's a two actually additional resting spots, and that also create like a place or it's kind of a landmark within this building for students to gather. Yeah. So this is a facade of the open terrace area. Yeah, this side is very porous, with a series of concrete terrace that disperse out in a different location. Yeah, of course the central part, the highest part, we have an opening as well. That part is actually for the natural sunlight to come in. It's outside the biology lab. So students maybe can experiment with urban farming. They can plant some vegetable or things like that, the urban farm to experiment with that complement the biology lab. So this is seen from the so-called across longitudinally the various open terraces. So you can see that the spaces are then interconnected between various levels of the teaching facility or the classrooms. Of course, the main feature also is this column-free open staircase. We detail it in such a way that is using steel structure, and we tie them together to the RC beams. So this staircase doesn't have any column to support. Also, because as it moves around, coming down, the spaces below needs to be column-free so that we don't hinder the human movement and doesn't have any obstruction as well. Yeah, so we have to tie this so-called staircase beams to the existing RC columns in a very specific location. Yeah, this is a view of the open terrace with the staircase and the study pods together. So notice that it's so much different from a so-called typical JKR standards school, but it's not really it doesn't increase the cost so much because these are all basic concrete mortar, concrete brick, and some railing only. You know, it doesn't increase the cost tremendously, but it definitely will energize all the spaces and the classrooms. And this is another view from the top down. So you can see that the staircases are non-repetitive, yeah, for this. So that the students enjoy walking up and down rather than using the lift. Yeah. So the photos here showing the other side of the block with the classroom on the edge. Here we try to mitigate the solar radiation. So this one has breeze solar or passive sun shading devices on the horizontal RC slabs and also some vertical one as well. You can see the picture is actually taken during construction. Some of it actually, most of the vertical one is actually RC and the horizontal is all RC. But to hide the rainwater downpipe, we actually introduced some UAC board, plaster cement board to actually, not plaster, actually it's cement board, okay? To actually box up all the rainwater downpipe coming down. And so it creates a very interesting facade as well, with the the non-symmetrical or non-repetitive facade to create a sense of excitement to this part of the building. And this project won an award with the MGBC in 2022. Yeah. Of course, the best reward is not from the competition, but from the students as well. You can see that from the Instagram post, they really enjoy going to school now. most of the students won't post the classroom, but they'll post what they eat or the bubble tea they drink. But in this case, they actually post pictures of them in the school. I think this is something that is the most rewarding part as an architect for me. The last project I want to bring you before I think we end the sharing is actually a high-rise project that we completed in 2016. It's a 4-acre land. It's a commercial status. So therefore, we have to propose a plot ratio 4 service apartment, or those days we call it the SOFO suites. And if you look at the site here, the geometry of the site, if the client asks you to propose a plot ratio 4, it's really, really challenging. How do you maximize the plot ratio within such a challenging shape of the land? 4-acre with the pointed edges here and there. And also it's boundaried by 2 service road, and the back is actually the north-south highway in the Sedang area, Sri Kembangan. Of course, I was always intrigued by the Kampong Boy comics by Dato' Lat, where we average Malaysian would enjoy living in harmoniously with various races, and also with plenty of nature in the natural surrounding, compared to our urban housing here, with this dingy corridor, double-loaded corridor, dark spaces, and no place for residents to interact at all. So this was a challenge that we give to ourselves. Can we do something better in our urban housing? Yeah, this was completed 2016 during the time when the MRT station, was launched, and then we are talking about a lot of this TOD development. And in this case, of course, this one doesn't have a direct connection to the MRT, but we're looking at how to actually improve the urban living condition for the average Malaysian living in Kuala Lumpur. So, of course, when we look back, there's always a problem statement. For housing here, we look at how our average Malaysian live, in our so-called housing estates. Even our housing estates is called taman. Taman refer to garden. It's so nice to live in a taman, full with access to garden. But nowadays, with our urban housing, the idea of the taman is already lost. So here we try to look at how to bring nature or green spaces to our urban housing by increasing the percentage of the green coverage or the green areas. So, typically the authority would just ask for 10%, right? So here we try to study this, the taman layout on the top, where you can see that the rows of houses are actually facing a central green area, and it's average about 10% of the site coverage. But when you go for a high-rise, the density increased 4 times or 6 times, but the green space is still remain 10%. I don't think it's fair for all these high-rise residents, because they are deprived of access to quality green spaces. So our challenge is actually, we put to ourselves the hypothesis is, we must increase our green spaces at least 4 times of the typical high-rise housing green spaces. Yeah. So in this case, we actually work with our landscape architect right from the start. When we did this project, our SketchUp file, we actually passed to our landscape architect, work with them, see how we can increase the green ratio or green percentage of this housing. And another thing that we look at also is the cross sections. As shown, the sections is very important, in forming spaces. In this case, the sections actually try to kind of architecturally create break down the massing of the high-rise blocks, but also it actually introduced cross ventilation through the major block of the building, which is the tallest here on the right-hand side. And that create a cross ventilation. In that manner also, you have the stack effect through the air wells, so that all the stale air in the air well can be drawn up to the mid-level here. With the cross ventilation, it sucks all the stale air out from the air well. Yeah? And this level, so-called the mid-level, connects to the roof of the lower block on the left-hand side. You can see the block B. This is actually block B. Yeah. Okay, on the left is the block B, and then on the right is actually the block A, which is tallest. Yeah. Block B actually facing the North-South Highway, the KL Seremban Highway. Yeah. And then with that, the block B also we have introduce some shallow water body as well to have a cooling effect, evaporative cooling. Although this is a double slab, but it helps to cool down the building. This is a view from the KL Seremban Highway. So this is actually the when it's completed in 2016 with the photographer taken the nice corner view of the facade. So you notice that the mid-level there with the double volume space actually opens up the whole block and breaks down the massing of the so-called the tall tower massing. This is the floor plan of the so-called the podium level. Half of the block occupies the podium level with units at the podium. But on the edge of the north there, you can see that it's all the common facility. And then the central area is the green, the pool area. Our landscape architect also, he cleverly designed, integrate the pool, which is not the so-called typical rectangle shape. You know, it's actually a very kind of like a trapezoidal shape. But it's good for people who like to swim across. And also it feels like it's more organic and more resorty. Yeah. And then so that the green area is more centralized and it's all interconnected. Rather than, you know, some of the approach for the facility on this area is that the green area all dispersed in the surrounding of the tower block. But it doesn't have that kind of a serious impact onto the space. This is a 16 level and 17 level, level 16, 17. This is a mid-level where we introduce the roof terrace as well. Yeah, and this roof terrace actually occupies the whole east wing of the tower A, you can see, and connects across to the rooftop of the tower B. So this forms another social space and a greenery space for the residents, because most of the high-rise development, the landscape just concentrate on the podium level. But here we create another horizontal level, horizontal plane for residents to gather, to chill out, or just to hang around. And also this also introduce the green coverage for the development. This one is actually a sectional axonometric diagram showing this level 16 roof, sky terrace. We have a model of this component just outside the reception area there. You can have a look later. Yeah, this is a view of that double volume sky terrace. This part here shown is actually the beam that supports the shear wall on top. Yeah, so we cannot transfer it to a full column, but we use a shear wall column. So this column is actually rather long, similar to a car park column, kind of a rectangle shape, not a square shape. So that it's easier for us engineers to design the transfer. So this long column supports the beam that supports the shear wall on top. So it's kind of like a mini transfer. In terms of cost, it's slightly higher, but it's not so expensive as a full transfer system. And so that we don't have walls that separate these spaces, so that this recreational area is fully linked up together. So we form a continuous space for the residents to enjoy. And this is at level 16. So if I don't tell you this is level 16, you may thought this is somewhere in the ground or in the podium level. But actually it's on the level 16 of the building. So you have a lot of walkable space within the tower itself. And these are some blow-up sections to show some more of the technical solution. So both edges of this sky terrace also we have planter boxes, because it's the most on the outside of the perimeter of the building. So when it rains, the rain will come in. So instead of having a concrete slab or whatever, we introduce the planter box to collect the rainwater. Yeah. So also this is where is the best place to have landscape as well, because you have natural light coming in. Otherwise, if you have landscape in the middle of the building, you don't get much of the natural sunlight to let the plant grow healthily. Yeah. So this section actually is quite meticulous. You can see that the columns are forming the same alignment with the shear wall on the upper floor. Grid number 13, grid number 14, grid number 15. There's also intermediate grid as well between 14 and 15, which is normal. Which is a normal solution because most of our units are forming based on the car park grid 8.5. Then we have another wall that separates the living and the bedrooms, right? So those chair walls also needs to be supported below as well, so that the structure is more effective. But then, because of the columns, the space are all interconnected on the longitudinal axis lah. So some details as well. We introduced some steel staircases so that the residents can walk up to the upper floor to enjoy the double volume space. And these are all using steel to complement the raw concrete that we want to bring in a more industrial feel to the interior space. In fact, also there's an artwork that was we commissioned an artist to paint the architecture of our project, and we use it to then digital transfer to tiles that is hung up in these common spaces, so that the art and architecture becomes a synonymous combination. So this was taken also at night time, where the light and shadow casted on the concrete wall actually forms a very interesting composition to the space as well. So another feature is that most of the lift lobby of our high-rise apartment, also the developer will just ask us to put another unit just outside the lift lobby. So in this case, we actually open up this lift lobby opening to a pocket garden. Every 3 levels there's a pocket garden, and it's deep enough to actually not having any doors to close up the lift. Even if there's heavy rain, the overhangs is deep enough so that the rain will not splash into the lift lobby. And the lift lobby is always well lit, natural ventilated, with the pocket garden to the front and the back of the spaces. And also we introduced a hanging garden. This is for the single loaded unit. So it's very nice for apartments to have some single loaded units. Most of the time, developers just maximize double loaded corridor, right? Here we have some units which is single loaded corridor. So in this case, we also introduce a pocket garden or hanging garden, which is bigger in size and span about 2 grids across. Yeah, so we don't introduce any columns. All these slabs and planter boxes actually hung from the existing structural columns we have in the building, in the original planning. And this space also has a vertical landscape that spans, that goes up from level 7 all the way to level 24. So in the end, we managed to achieve 58% green ratio, which is, I think, quite an achievement, because I don't think, you compare to any of the high-rise housing in KL particularly, that have a very significant green percentage. So I often go back, to actually do an evaluation, have a look whether the landscape is well maintained or not, because I use this as my teaching material for my students in master studio and teaching in part-time in UM for the high-rise studio. So I use this as a case study for the students. And every time we bring the students back, we still feel that, okay, the landscape is still okay, still well maintained, because we don't specify very difficult plants to maintain. Yeah, these are all very hardy, natural plants that is suitable for our tropical climate. And we always have deep planter boxes with earth and soil and good irrigation system, so that the plants can grow very well. Yeah. So this project won a PAM award in 2016 as well, and also a Star Property Award. And our landscape architect in the same year also won the MLAA, the Landscape Architect Award as well. Yeah. So in summary, during COVID also, we try to formulate the direction for our firm, because in conjunction with our 20th anniversary. And basically these 4 key factors or key objective is actually the main thrust of our practice, focusing on sustainability, collaboration, even CSR, because we work with a lot of NGO for the projects as well, and also research and experimentation and innovation as well. We work with different materials in wherever we can in our projects. Yeah, so this year is our 20th anniversary and just celebrated our anniversary recently. So with that, I end my sharing today. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Architect Alan Tay. And of course, now we would like to initiate the Q&A session. So at this point, I would like to ask our guest to please have a seat. I'll be joining him soon on the stage, and I think we can get the Q&A session moving. So who amongst you brave souls would like to go first? We will now open the floor for questions and answers. If you have any questions, raise your hand. Someone will come to you with the mic. Please introduce yourself. And of course, the stage is yours after that. Testing. Come on, don't be shy. We're all among friends here. That's the building that's actually towards Rumban, isn't it? You can actually see it, right? Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. It's a lovely building. Okay, so I guess no Q&A lah. Well, thank you very much for being here. Okay. No, but come on, seriously, jokes aside, we've got one obviously exceptional talent on stage. I'm sure, especially among maybe the younger ones who want to work with him one day, maybe you have any questions you'd like to ask. Well, thank you very much for being here. Anyone? Anybody who asks a question, I'll take you off for teh tarik after this. As much as you like.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have souvenirs like Sika, so yeah, so I don't have any quiz.
Maybe we can have a lawatan sambil belajar. We can go together. Whoever asks the first 3 questions, when you go for that University 360 building, the Unif 360 building, we can do a lawatan sambil belajar. Okay, right. Actually, the housing one, what's interesting is that you managed to put the staircase, you anchored it right in the middle of the building. I can imagine a lot of developers might have been thinking what's going on, I'm sure there must have been some resistance or some objection, or thinking that how can you justify this because it's affecting the space, your GFA is affected, and circulatory-wise, people might not be comfortable having a staircase in the middle. So what arguments did you put forward to convince the developer, no, this is something we can think about?
I think I didn't show the rendering of the dining table with the staircase. Actually, the staircase was meant to design as a part of the dining spaces where family members can sit on the staircase while they're chit-chatting. Yeah, I would imagine that if a family of 4 or 5, then sometimes maybe the father came back late from work, having a late dinner, and then the children maybe coming down from the upstairs, the room, he would just loitering around the staircase and having a conversation. So it's like the staircase is not just a staircase, it becomes something else. And because it's next to the courtyard as well, there's a little alcove that one can actually put in maybe a small study desk as well. So that space becomes something, not just a staircase per se. And this, I think also we shown the picture of the staircase that also is like become a double volume, light well coming, linking the upper floor to the lower floor. So of course some developer would say that, oh, I want everything spacious. I want the living room to be as spacious as possible. But hey, you look at the floor plan, right? We have better bedrooms than the typical housing, right? The 2 bedrooms are the 3 bedrooms, including the guest rooms. And then that opens up the, the natural light bringing to the bedrooms. And then we have a very wide, spacious living room. So there's already many plus points to it. So that, I think we managed to convince the developer to actually buy that floor plan to be implemented.
And any response that you may know of the public who decided to buy those units? Did anybody say anything to you and say, hey, these guys, they kind of like the idea?
Well, it's sold out already. So by the time we reached the CCC, the last unit was sold already. So a lot of buyers actually did not buy until they see the building under construction. Because like small town like Bukit Mertajam, there's no hoarding. So the buyers or interested purchasers can just walk in. As they walk in, they see the light well, they see the bedrooms are so nice. They see the staircase, they buy. They went on, then they went on to purchase.
Oh, I think that's
the so it's like, we didn't have any show unit lah. So as it being built, as gradually the sales pick up lah.
So it goes to show that the Malaysian public can be accepting of new ideas, lah. Not so rigid in their thinking. All right, that's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, I'm also make a very interesting, important remark here is, you know, this developer is not very big developer. It's not like Slime Derby or Echo, but they managed to allow us to explore this kind of typology. So, but however, I think generally most of our mass landed housing are still very conservative. The developer marketing plot is still just having a very beautiful facade. That's it. Whether it's a Scandinavian style or whether tropical or Balinese, just having a very beautiful facade. That's it. You know, the floor plan never changed throughout the years. Has it changed? I'm not sure because I haven't done many mass housing with all the big developers nowadays. I used to do some for Echo, and we completed our latest phase few years ago with Tropicana. But it's still very conservative. The terrace house has not changed over the past 40 years, I think, in my opinion. In fact, it's from bad to worse because it's not very environmental sustainable. It's all relying on air conditioning, right? Yeah, without air conditioning, I don't think we managed to so-called bring the temperature down to a very comfortable level. And the light quality of light also, we need to have artificial lighting throughout the whole building. So how are we going to live sustainably? In Malaysia, we are moving towards, you know, we're talking about ESG and to be carbon neutral by, I don't know how many years in time to come. But the way we live, of course, this one is a sidetrack. You know, our housing, we keep developing a lot of housing estates outside of our public transport system. Those expensive terrace houses, 700,000, 800,000, can only be reached by our own private vehicles, right? There's no buses or no public transport to link up to these housing estates. So these residents have to live with their own cars, you know. They have to rely on their own private transport to move around, which I don't think is sustainable. So I think we have to start looking at things in many angles. So this is one attempt by us to look at how to design a very sustainable housing. At least it's not one unit, it's actually 2 blocks of a small scale terrace housing. I think it's a good start. That's why I like to share this project with the audience here today as well, so that, you know, this can be shared. It's not like it's not our IP, it's not our intellectual property. It's actually anybody can take on it and even make it better, improve on it as well. Maybe you have a 24-feet lot with the courtyard. Yeah.
Yeah, good things take time. And you always start with the small steps. Huh? Okay. Finally, the gentleman at the back. Can someone pass him, the brave soul over there, a mic? Please introduce yourself. And I'm obviously guessing the question is going to be for our guest. Huh?
Yeah. Yes, I'm Architect Gan here. Just want to ask Alan, to what extent do you use, I saw some your models, they are more or less finished models, but do you use any mock-up models in your process? Because your title is actually responsive sections. So do you do a lot of mock-up models in sections, or, you know, in 3D, or do you use your software 3Ds to communicate with yourself as well as the client?
For larger scale project, we normally use computer models already, but for a smaller scale project like the terrace house or renovation projects or private residence project, we still make models. Yeah. In fact, we even make like at least 2 models, from the conceptual model to a more finished models before we confirm the design with the client. I think model is a very good medium of communication with the layman client, because they don't know how to read plans. Even with the 3D, sometimes also, they can't really read the spaces. Yeah. So with models, it's very straightforward for them to read the spaces and understand how the form and the spaces work together. Yeah. So in office, we have interns coming in on and off. So we always utilize the model making skills by the interns to make all these study models. Yeah. Of course, some of the models displayed out there was done after we finish the design. It's done for our 20th anniversary exhibition. Yeah, I have to be honest with you. But we do use models, study models during our design process. I think it's very important, yeah, and very effective also.
Actually, I think just to let you know, I think model making is also a dying art, because one of our guests had gone to a local university, and it turns out that the students were using 3D printers now to do their models, you know. So that also in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be a dying art. Oh well, life goes on. Next question, please. I'm surprised nobody wants to ask about his experiences in, oh yes, at the back.
Hi, good afternoon.
Oh, in the
Yvonne
dark.
here.
Hi, Yvonne.
Hi. Just out of curiosity, how would you frame your architecture? Are you inspired from vernacular, or are you incorporating like environmental and sustainability in your practice right now?
Vernacular architecture definitely have its sustainable features, right? Because those olden days, our forefathers, when we built, we don't have a lot of resources. Therefore, the materials we use has to be sourced from local context, and the house has to be sustainable to maintain and to operate. So that's why they have courtyards, they have light well, bringing natural light and ventilation. So these are the source of inspiration for our buildings. But of course, as we build bigger now with the high rise, we can't use the typology of a courtyard in a high rise. So we have to somehow tweak a bit lah. Yeah. So the sustainable feature not necessarily has to be inspired from vernacular, but we always look at how the vernacular formed the main ingredient of the architecture those days as a source of inspiration, but not necessarily has to be referred to vernacular architecture in all cases. Yeah. So it has to be you have to decide depending on the typology or the scale of the project. Yeah, but we always like to incorporate sustainable design features. Whether the client asks for GBI or Green RE, it's a must for us to at least attempt on our own to have a sustainable design in our checklist. Yeah, whether the client wants it to be certified, that's another matter. Like the UNIF 360, we didn't go for any green rating. But if I had gone for it, I think we can confidently get, I don't know, I've never done the rating, but probably can get a silver in terms of just a certified. Because the amount of greens in there is really quite an achievement. Even until today, I think not many developers attempted to go for this kind of approach. They worry about the maintenance issue, right? But this one has 675 units, so we are confident the maintenance fees is sufficient for the manager office to manage it. If we had a smaller scale, like a low density development, we would have gone for a different approach. But we have done it in 4 high-rise projects, yeah, with the same client, all above 40% green ratio. This is one of them. And we have a booklet that we publish also. Yeah, that one has showcased all the 4 selected works there. So it's, I don't know if it answered your question. I hope I did. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, these are the books which are just outside, isn't it? What, 25 each or something?
Yeah, the one next to the model. Yeah,
okay.
My assistant is manning that booth.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's already 12:15, so we'll just take one last question before we call it a day. Who would like to ask the last question of the day? Or was that the last question of the day?
I think it'll be you. You have any questions? Yeah.
No,
but anyway, after the talk, maybe we can can just interact there at the model. I'll be happy to be there to chit chat. I think some of you maybe prefer to have a close conversation, face-to-face conversation, rather than in this open forum, which is okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, then in that case, I would suggest that we can end it for the time being, and that would have been the last question. So thank you once again, Architect Alan, for being here right now.